Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. We've got a great show for you today. I'm excited to dive into it, but before we do, I have to congratulate Lena Atout, who has been the producer on our show for quite some time now. She got married over the weekend. She was a beautiful bride. It looked like the ceremony and everything was incredible. My parents actually attended because Lena went to UNLV, where my dad is a professor. And so anyway, just seems like it was an amazing day, and want to congratulate Lena. And if any of you get a chance to interact with her, make sure that you congratulate her as well. Maybe we'll put her Venmo in the show notes if you want to send a wedding gift to Lena. But congrats, Lena. Really, really cool opportunity. I can tell you that one of the greatest joys of my life has been finding the person that I want to spend it with, and I'm excited for you to be able to do the same. We have a really fun show today. We've got a great guest, someone who reached out to me a couple of months ago, and when we started the conversation, I wasn't sure exactly what the value would be specifically for DMOs. And then we got on the phone, and I'm like, oh, there's value for DMOs in this conversation. So I'm really excited to have our guest. Her name is Denella Ri'chard. And Danella, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Adam, and congratulations, Lena.
And I didn't warn Lena, and so I'm sure she doesn't want to pop on the video today, but I want to give everybody a heads up that she is on the line. But oh, there she is. She is going to pop in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited for you. So, Danella, I think to start, and we'll get into who you are and what you do, but we like to warm everybody up with a couple of questions here. And the first one I want to ask you is, what is your dream destination? If you could go anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh my gosh, dream destination. Oh my. Oh, you're putting me on the spot there, Adam. It's so many places. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to change it up a little bit.
Okay.
I use a term that's called living list destinations. So, some people say bucket list. But if I had to say one of my living list destinations is Vietnam.
Vietnam.
I have not had an opportunity to visit Vietnam. And of course, Vietnam is known for its beautiful beaches, tropical atmosphere, and all of those things. But one of the reasons I want to visit Vietnam is because my father served in Vietnam. And I want to go back and I want to trace some of the steps, the things that took place in that interesting part of not only American history, but Vietnam's history, and really have a chance to see where these soldiers were and get a chance to meet with some of the people that can still tell some of those stories today. So while I want to go to experience the beautiful landscape, the beaches, and of course, Vietnamese food is awesome, I really want to go and connect with the people. And I have everyone I've ever met from Vietnam. They're just amazing, beautiful, kind people. And I want to be able to connect and see what is, even after their country went through that kind of trauma, what is the resilience of the people that still allows them to lead in love and kindness. So that's one of my living list destinations.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And I actually want to dig into, why do you call it your living list instead of your bucket list? I think that's an important thing for us all to hear.
It is. So I call it living list simply because you always hear, oh, bucket list. What's your bucket list destination? Well, I'm not planning on kicking the bucket. And and neither should you. It shouldn't be like, oh, before I die. Well, let's talk about living. And let's talk about living life to the fullest, right? So as I am living this amazing life and I'm living it to the fullest, I have my living list of places I want to go. And believe it or not, Vietnam is on that list.
I like it. I like the term living list too, because I feel like bucket list kind of begets procrastination and, oh, we can do that later. We can do it when we're closer to dying or whatever. And a living list, no, we got to do it right now.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
So Danella, I love the story you told about your dad and that Vietnam's on your list because your dad served in Vietnam. It's interesting to me, and it's going to shoehorn quite nicely into our topic today because I really believe that genealogical travel is something that's becoming more and more prominent as people want to see the birthplace of their ancestors. This is a little bit different, right? Because you're not wanting to travel to where your father was born. You want to travel somewhere that's a big part of his story as a whole and see it for yourself. And I've got to imagine that that's really cool because as your dad probably shared parts of that story, and then for you to go experience that in person and see, where was he exaggerating? Where did he get it right? That would be a really fun thing to do. And so I really love that answer as a dream destination.
Yes, and it's especially special for me because my dad died when I was 8 years old. So I can remember a few stories of Vietnam, but not a whole lot. And because I lost him so young in life, I at least want to walk and experience some of what he experienced, or be at least on the land where he was, where he served his country proudly as a United States Marine.
I love that. I love that. Well, I'm so excited to hear how that trip goes when you actually get to go to Vietnam. I would love to hear maybe a favorite travel memory that you have. It could be from growing up, it could be recent, whatever really stands out to you.
Oh, wow. Favorite travel memory. Well, I will say, one of the reasons I got the travel bug is because my mom was a tournament bowler. Okay. She would
Wow.
bowl all over. She would join tournaments throughout the United States and go and bowl. So growing up, every summer we were either in Orlando, we were in Vegas, or in California, wherever the tournament took us. And I got to tell you, one of my favorite places to visit growing up was Vegas. And we always stayed at Circus. And at Circus, we could play all these fun games. And
Yep.
I would come back, I'd get back on the plane, and I had all these huge stuffed animals that took up the seats next to me. And all the passengers on the plane would complain. But I love Vegas growing up. My mom would take us there every year. And then we would leave Vegas and drive on over to California and visit my aunt who lived in the Oakland, San Francisco area at the time. So having the chance to go to like Fisherman's Wharf and Chinatown and San Francisco and get the little China doll shoes and all that stuff, like I loved it. So I got the travel bug from my mom. And my first set of luggage was that luggage that said, "I'm going to grandma's." I don't know if you remember that brand, but it was called "I'm going to grandma's." All the kids had it.
I love it.
So that's like one of my early favorite travel memories.
Oh, that's so fun. Now, the first question I have to ask after that, though, is how good of a bowler are you after your upbringing?
So, quick answer, I suck. But my mom and my brother are great at bowling. But you have to understand, my mom bowled so much. She even bowled like 2 days out of the week, every week locally. So growing up, while she was bowling, I would go into the daycare at the bowling alley. There was a daycare. And then
Wow.
as I got older, like I was like 10 and 11, the lady in the daycare had me helping her take care of the kids. So as I got older, I didn't want to see a bowling alley. So as a result, I don't bowl today. But my brother still travels all over the United States. He's the tournament bowler in the family now.
Oh, that's amazing.
So, and he's also a Marine like dad. So he bowls in different veterans tournaments and things like that.
I'm picturing the daycare area just being a bunch of smoke-filled pool tables that you guys are all hanging around, but I'm sure it was better than that. Um,
Oh, no. Yeah, pretty good idea.
that's about what it was. So I want to help you rebrand it a little bit because you could tell the story. My mom was a professional athlete, and I spent my time following my professional athlete mom around, and then bowling's just a little bit of an afterthought with that, right?
There you go. Hey, it's a good sport too.
I love it. I love it.
Although I don't think it's in the Olympics. Bowling is not in the Olympics, is it?
No, but I bet if we looked at the list of sports that made the cut, we could probably make a pretty good argument for switching it out.
There you go.
So that's really fun, Danella, and I've got to imagine that your upbringing gave you some of the unique perspective on travel that you have today. And I want to help everybody understand a little bit of your background. And of course, you've got your show, Traveling with Danella, which we'll want to talk about. But let's understand first the journey of how you got to the position that you're in today.
Sure. So growing up, I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the capital city of Louisiana. And so I went through my, elementary, high school, and even college years. I went to school in Baton Rouge. But my family, my mom and my dad are from Cajun and Creole land.
Hmm.
They are from a place called Opelousas, Louisiana, and that's why I know that. So my grandparents, they all grew up speaking French. But as I grew up and came along, believe it or not, it was not well thought of to speak French because French was then seen as like the farmer's language, and they viewed farming, which my grandparents were. They viewed farming back then as kind of like, lower or uneducated, right? So growing up, my parents didn't want me to speak French, but my name, Denella Ri'chard, a lot of people say Richard, but it's actually Ri'chard. So we are French, right? We're Creole French people. And yes, I got my upbringing, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, went to school at Southern University. During my senior year at Southern University, graduating my senior year of college, I should say, I had an opportunity to go study abroad in Harare, Zimbabwe.
Wow.
This was 1994, the end of 1994, like when I went over. So, and one of the reasons I was inspired is because many years before, I had a fascination with Nelson Mandela, even in 8th grade. In my social studies project, I talked about apartheid and things that Mandela and the ANC were doing. And I went all the way to state, right? And won the social studies fair, talking about South Africa and apartheid. Now, fast forward, here I am in college. I get a chance to go study abroad, but in neighboring Zimbabwe. But next to Zimbabwe is South Africa, right? And I was like, I want to do this program because the program said we would also spend time in South Africa. And sure enough, here we were, into 1994, going into 1995, and President Nelson Mandela, he was a new president at that time. It wasn't long before apartheid had just ended. And now here I am walking the streets in Johannesburg and getting a chance to embrace and be a part of this history. And also, be on the land where this man that I had studied from a youngster was now president of this country, and get a chance to say, hey, I'm on the land and be a part of this story. So yeah, I went to live as a study abroad student in Southern Africa, spending a lot of time in Zimbabwe and South Africa. And as you can imagine, that's where a travel bug came from. All right. Now, what I didn't tell you is while studying at my home school, Southern University in Baton Rouge, my degree was in broadcast journalism. So that's kind of how, as my career unfolded, I graduated college, went to work for a television production company, producing a show for United Airlines called Destinations.
Nice.
The host at the time was a lady by the name of Alice Caron. But as I helped produce that show and sent producers, and people all over the world to film, I was usually the one back at the office. And I would say, one day, I want to have a travel show. But in the 90s, that dream did not become a reality for me. But what did become a reality was the opportunity to go and work and be a part of a startup company in Brussels, Belgium, in Europe. So I went to work for this startup company, launched it in Brussels, went to work in Brussels for 3 years, came back to the States, got a job, and went to work for Hilton Corporate. And I was on the team that helped launch the Hampton brand internationally. And as we were launching the Hampton brand in Canada, in Europe, Latin America, and we were about to go into Asia, I ended up meeting the CEO of Norwegian Cruise Line, who then offered me a job in the cruise industry. So that is kind of the background of how my career unfolded. And then fast forward, and whenever you're ready to talk about that, I'll tell you how I then ended up full circle from the 90s of dreaming of a travel show to having my own travel show.
Yeah, I appreciate you kind of walking us through that. And first of all, sorry I mispronounced your last name. That's what I get for just reading it off the page instead of remembering our conversation from before. So it entirely on me, Denella Ri'chard, and I'll get that right from here on out. Another major hot button in the destination marketing industry that we were able to discuss at CMO Jam was the RFP and procurement process. We all know it's broken. If you've listened to my show for a while, you know that I think it's broken. And we had a great discussion with some of the brightest minds in the destination marketing industry in episode 5 of CMO Jam. And we talked about what's broken in the process and how to fix it. I thought it was an awesome discussion. And again, we had a great video and it's not super conducive to this audio format, but I think this excerpt will give you a taste of just the sheer value that came from that discussion with such a great group of people. I hope you enjoy this excerpt. And of course, if you do, please make sure that you go listen to the entire episode or watch the entire episode on the Brand Revolt YouTube channel or on Tourism IQ.
On the vendor side of things, you guys are all CMOs. You all work with multiple vendors, and specifically agencies. I've got to tell you, the RFP process in our space does not set up the agency-client dynamic for success, not even at all. And you talked about, Emily, having the objectives first and then budgeting from there. RFPs, if you make it a list of tactics that agencies are supposed to fulfill on, you're going to get an agency that feels like the partnership is based on the tactics they're performing instead of the outcomes that you're looking for. If I was built, and by the way, I know procurement has rules and restrictions and stupid legality and all that kind of stuff. But if I was hiring an agency from your chair, I would say, this is the objective I want. Build me a plan to get there. And then I would get out of the way and see what the agency comes up with, because that's actually where you find out if the agency can be creative and different and unique, or if they're just going to do a list of tactics. And I know you want to compare apples to apples, and that's why we have the list of tactics in the RFPs. But when we were talking earlier about the shift that needs to happen from strategist or tactician to strategist, if agencies are going to get paid for how they think, and you're not allowing them in the RFP to show how they think, how in the world are you ever going to have a successful partnership with that agency? And so the one thing that I'll tell you from the agency side that I think needs to change is the way you hire agencies. And as long as you're giving them a list of tactics and expecting them to be strategic, it's not an agency problem.
One of the things that stands out to me from your experience is you were a say yes to adventure person. It sounds like you had opportunities to do really unique things that would require getting out of your comfort zone and taking an adventure. And you said yes. And those yes moments really seemed to shape your career. And it sounds like ultimately led you to finally realize that dream of getting a travel show. So congratulations, first of all, on saying yes to the adventures that came your way. Would love to hear about the development of your show.
Yes. So the way our show came about was because of something called COVID-19, right? In March of 2020, as you know, the cruise industry was slammed. You know, we had to stop taking passengers on board, and the cruise industry was like the only industry that came to a halt for over a year. We could not have passengers on board. During that time, I was working for Holland America Line. I had a team of over 40 people that reported into me. I had to lay all of them off, and then found out I was being laid off too, right? So during that time when the world was on lockdown, and I'm like, okay, well, I ain't got no job. What we gonna do now? You know, I decided that I really wanted to inspire people that borders are gonna open again. We're going to travel the world again. Don't give up, right? Because at that time, we couldn't even go to the movies. We couldn't go to church. Our country, the world was on lockdown because of COVID-19. So, and I happened to have a friend that had launched a streaming station who gave me a call. And he said, Danella, you've been gone from television for over 20 years. He said, why don't you come back to TV? Produce a show for my new streaming channel. You know? He's like, I'll give you a prime time spot. Come up with it. So sure enough, during that time, I'm looking, I'll never forget, it was 2:00 in the morning and I'm watching Kelly Clarkson, right? Because I ain't no job to go to. It's COVID. We all watching TV at 2:00 in the morning, right?
Yep.
And her, she was doing basically a Zoom format show, right? And I was like, wow, well, you know what? Maybe I'll just go ahead and produce this travel show in this Zoom kind of format where I'm bringing, executives on, some of my colleagues, and we're talking about travel and destinations and inspiring people that when borders open again, we're going to travel the world again. So that's what we did. So about 6 shows in, I then started getting calls from destinations and heads of tourism saying, bring the camera crews now because the borders are open and you got to show these people that we can travel again. So that's what we did. So we started, I put the film crew together and we started hitting the road. Now, what was interesting, there weren't a lot of film crews that even wanted to hit the road because people were still scared. They were still scared of COVID. And as we landed in destinations like whether it was the, USVI or, wherever the show took us, we went to Jamaica, we were going all kinds of places and throughout the United States. No matter where we went, there was one caveat. And Adam, you remember this, that, hey, social distancing. You can't get too close to anybody. So make sure you guys practice social distance. So we started having all of these outdoor experiences. I started getting invited to do things like go swimming with sharks. I'm like, what the heck? Swimming with sharks? I'm a good swimmer. But I didn't think about that. Or come over here to the monkey sanctuary. And I found myself monkeys jumping all over my head, right? And we started having these outdoor experiences. I started having amazing connections with animals. And then when we started to have a chance to sit down with the people, all of these amazing stories, people started opening up in a way that we just not had seen before. And from that, the show evolved. The first broadcast television station to pick us up was WSFL in Miami, Florida. From there, we got a call from King 5 in Seattle. They picked us up. And the show just started getting picked up. And now we're on TV every week in over 50 cities throughout the United States.
Amazing.
So that's how it came out, because I lost my job because of COVID. And we had to do something different. But wanted to inspire people to travel the world again. And Adam, because like you and for like your audience listening, travel is our lifeblood, right? We made our careers in this industry. So I had to do my part in inspiring people to book and travel again. Let's get our industry back strong. And that was the original core and purpose of Traveling with Danella.
I love that. And congratulations, first of all, for you lost your job in COVID. And I think a lot of people lost their job during COVID and had a choice to make, right? Do I press forward and do something different, or do I kind of wallow in my pain from losing my job? You went forward, and now it seems to me, based on what you're saying, that you've expanded your career far beyond where you were at when you lost your job. And that's one of the things a lot of people don't understand, that crisis is actually one of the best things that can happen to somebody, because it can help you take a step forward that you wouldn't have taken unless there was a crisis. And so I'm really impressed that you took that step. And of course, now you've got this really successful travel show. And when we were having our introductory conversation to understand where the specific value was that I wanted to present to my audience here, you talked about something that I think has been under-discussed. And you talked about the importance of destinations leaning into the uncomfortable stories, or maybe everybody wants good PR, right? And
Yep.
a lot of people believe that you should only share a story if it reflects well on the destination or if it's good PR for the destination. And what you said is, no, there's uncomfortable stories all over the place that add to the intrigue that you have in a destination that make people want to visit, even if it's not like a happy ending or a smile or anything like that. And I actually think a great example that you illustrated is Vietnam is largely a subject in our country that's looked upon negatively in our history, right? And you want to go book a trip to see some of the places and experiences that your dad had when he was in Vietnam. Even though it's not a positive story, it still inspires travel, and it's a critical piece of our history as a country. And I think that's actually a great example and tie-in to where you wanted to go, talking about sharing those stories that might not have the best reflection. So I wonder if you could first talk about your philosophy of why you think it's important to share some of those uncomfortable stories, and maybe some examples of destinations who have done that and had it actually lead to travel.
Absolutely. You know, I I mentioned to you before, I'm from Louisiana. And so, the South in America, a lot of people think of the South, and especially when you think back, in time, the civil rights movement or
Hmm.
slavery or whatever it was. The South is not always, if you're not from there, for a lot of people, it's usually not at the top of your list of places to visit. And I've had a chance to visit a few destinations and feature them on our show and just walk through that experience of some uncomfortable parts in history. For example, Jackson, Mississippi. Let me tell you, a lot of people think about Jackson, it ain't pretty,
Hmm.
right? Thoughts of lynching or the name of Emmett Till, stories like that, which are sometimes had a lot of people say, I would never go Jackson, Mississippi. Let me tell you something. Jackson has done an amazing job of embracing that story, and bringing it to life through its museums and saying, hey, while this might have been an uncomfortable part of our history, we're not running from it. We're going to tell the story, but we're going to tell that story accurately so you can understand who we are as a people, the resilience of our people, but also understand who we are as a people today, right? And so Jackson is one of those places, and you go to it today, and Jackson has a vibrant culinary scene, right? And a variety of entertainment, outdoor activities, all kinds of things to do. So you take a place like Jackson, or equally who had an uncomfortable story, Montgomery, Alabama,
Yep.
right? And the story of Rosa Parks. And you have these local tour guides and small businesses that help you walk the trail of whether it's Rosa Parks or Dr. King. Again, leaning into that story. And as you lean into that story and learn about that uncomfortable part of history, but then once you've done that, then go and experience all the things that destination has to offer today. Like Montgomery has whitewater rafting. Who knew? Right? So, finding all those other things to do. And even another one, Little Rock, Arkansas, the Little Rock Nine.
Yep.
That's the 9 Black kids who helped integrate the high school there, you know, back during segregation.
Yep.
So again, finding a way, leaning into those uncomfortable stories and say, yeah, this is our history, this is our story, and we're not running from it. So let us share it with you. And it's important for even families. Bring your children. Teach them these stories. Teach them this part of history. Let them walk in these steps so that they have a better understanding and an empathy. Because if we do not know our history, we are bound to repeat it. And that's something that must never happen in this country again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but then understanding who these destinations are today and all they have to offer. So those are 3 incredible destinations who I give kudos to for the amazing job that they have done
Yep.
in embracing that history and helping educate, but also opening their doors to all and say, but look at who we are today,
Yep.
right? And you're welcome. Come here.
I think those are three great examples. One of the things that's interesting about each of those stories is I kind of feel like those stories are so publicly embedded in our history and culture at a national scale that, you can't tell the Montgomery story without acknowledging Rosa Parks and Dr. King, and same with Little Rock, same with Jackson, Mississippi, and Emmett Till. I agree with all of that. I think we have destinations all over the country whose negative stories may not have entered the public discussion and zeitgeist in the way that some of those major destinations have. So why would a destination that maybe some of their negative history hasn't reached the national conversation, why should they still tell that story?
Because it's a part of who they are, right? It's their history. It's a part of who makes the people who are there today, makes them who they are. And there's a lot of people tend to forget a lot of these people are still living. So while you have a chance to connect with some of these people and hear the stories from them while they are still here in life, that is very important to allow them to be the voices and the storytellers who make up the community of these destinations, right? So embrace it. Don't run for it. It's not like people don't know. So you might as well, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, dispel the myths, Because for a long time, I'm going to tell you, growing up, this is a real story. And I grew up in Louisiana. Mom would take us, we drive from Louisiana to Florida, right? And my mom would say to us, kids, please, 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 do not ask to go to the bathroom as we drive through Mississippi. Don't. It's dangerous, okay? And my mom is a high yellow Creole Louisiana woman, but she look white. You never know she black unless she tells you, But she was like, kids, no, Mississippi dangerous, And it is so important because there were a lot of people in America that had that perception of Mississippi. And to go to Jackson and see all that Jackson has to offer today, and to see what that city is like, I mean, they have to tell their story. They have to tell their story, right? And the beauty of a podcast like you or a television show like mine, we have a chance in a long form content way, whether it's through video or whether it's through this conversation, of really bringing that story to light in more than just a swipe, a like, or a post, right?
Yep.
And so no, it's important because they have to dispel the myths. If they don't embrace those hard stories and dispel the myths and show who they are today, then they're going to miss a huge, huge opportunity. And this is especially important for destinations here in the United States because there are so many people that can get in a car and drive. I don't care if you're driving from the West Coast down south. There are so many opportunities, whether you're getting on, whether it's a train, a plane, or driving. There are opportunities for Americans and for us to drive tourism to these destinations. But you have to be willing to share your story and tell people who you are today so they want to come and so that they feel welcome.
So I think this is why I wanted to have you on, is because you're making such an important point here. One of the things that I've seen in destinations all over the country who have attempted not to tell the uncomfortable stories, sooner or later you have a resident or a stakeholder or even an outside source or even in some cases Netflix that will come in and decide we're going to be the tellers of that story. And when you allow someone else to own the narrative of your story, you can lose control of how it's perceived. And I would much rather tell the story from my perspective as a destination than allow an outsider or someone who may have an agenda or something like that or who wants to politicize my story to then go be the teller of that story. I'll give you one example. I think about when Netflix really arrived for me was when they had that story about the guy in Wisconsin. And I wish I could remember what that documentary's name was, but it was the guy that his family owned a junkyard in Wisconsin, and the woman that came out ended up getting murdered. And they created this big. Are you remembering this story at all? Is this?
Don't.
Oh my gosh. It was this little county in Wisconsin, and Netflix came in and they told, they portrayed the chief of police in a certain way, and they portrayed the court system in a certain way. And that community lost all control of the story. And it actually doesn't matter how much of that story was true because they didn't get the opportunity to tell it. Right.
Right.
And there's stories like that all over the country, all over the world. I just believe that if you try to hide a story, you then don't get to control how it's told when you're not the teller. And I think that destinations, it would be really important. Like you said, Danella, the stories of your history are part of who you are today, and you can't hide it. And so if you tell the story in an accurate and controlled way, then you also get to make it a part of the story of who you are today. And visitors will want to understand that. They'll want to hear about even the uncomfortable history that you have because it's part of what makes your destination unique.
Absolutely. And Adam, I remember when you and I had our initial conversation, there's a story that came to mind. We were filming in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And the hotel that we stayed at, there was in the, 40s, 50s, I forgot the exact time period. But actually it was before that. This was like the 1920s, right? There was a murder that took place in this hotel. A woman was cheating on her husband. Her husband found out that she was having an affair, right? Came to the hotel room and burst in and decapitated her in a tub, whatever the story was. It was a horrific story. Well, for years, the hotel closed. It was shut down, right? Hotel opens later, and they know people in the community heard the story, still know the story, still talk about the story. And it was a situation where people were running from or not checking in or afraid, you know what I'm saying? So they decided that they would embrace the story, right? And they actually took that room. It still looks like it did back during that time period. And that room is available to be booked during the month of October. And believe it or not, they sell out. They sell out for people wanting to stay in their room. And you have to forgive me because the hotel has to forgive me because I'm drawing a blank on the name of that hotel. But I'll have to follow up with you later on that one. But it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hotel. And that's in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
It's such a great example. They took an uncomfortable story, something that doesn't necessarily reflect well, and now they've turned it into an attraction that gets booked out. These are the stories people remember. Like, yes, you've got a beautiful beach, or yes, you've got beautiful mountains. It's actually the stories and interactions that people have that are the takeaways that they remember from the experience. And when you deprive them of the opportunity to hear some of those stories, you're also depriving them of some of the things that they'll talk about when they get back. And that's future visitation that you could have. And so, yeah, I think it's really important to lean in and share even the uncomfortable parts of your history because it's what makes your destination unique.
Exactly. And Adam, if I could share one more quick story with you. So we're in the process of doing a 1-hour television special in honor of our America 250 years of independence. And as we reached out to a few destinations and said, hey, we'd love to tell your destination story and your role in the American Revolution, you'd be surprised how many destinations don't even know their story. So as we started sharing with some of the destinations their stories, they were like, wow, I didn't even realize that. But there was one destination that I have to share with you. And this is Lafayette, Louisiana. A lot of people don't think Lafayette, Louisiana would have had anything to do with America's independence and the American Revolution, right? You think of the 13 colonies, you think of Boston, you think of Philadelphia, you think of places like that, but Charleston, but you're not thinking about Lafayette, Louisiana. Now, ironically, my family is from that Acadiana French region of Lafayette, Louisiana. And believe it or not, the Acadians who came to that area, they came from Nova Scotia in Canada. They were kicked out of Nova Scotia by the Brits, came to Louisiana and settled. They joined forces with the Spanish troops, the Galvez expedition, right? Military General Galvez, and went and fought against the British in helping America gain its independence. And as one of my storytellers told me, believe it or not, it was them darn Louisiana Acadians who, excuse my language, who helped instigate the shit with Boston that caused that darn Boston Tea Party. And said, no taxes, we're not paying tea taxes, right? But most people would never know Louisiana had anything to do with helping America gain its independence. And one of my ancestors actually fought with Galvez in one of those militias to help America gain its independence. So right now, as we get ready for America's 250-year anniversary, I challenge destinations, lean into your story and find out what was your region's story, or, what was your role in the American Revolution, because you might be surprised. And if destinations miss that opportunity to tell that unknown story as we celebrate 250 years of independence, I think that is a huge missed opportunity.
Mic drop on that one. I think you're 100% correct.
Guys, have you created your profile yet on Tourism IQ? Tourism IQ has become one of the very best resources in the destination marketing industry. You can see all the latest jobs there, and Lori Farr, who many of you may know from when she was doing the travel vertical, she's the editorial director at Tourism IQ, and she puts together all the latest available jobs. She tells us where people have gone when they take a new job. It's called People on the Move. She posts the latest RFPs. We have a lot of thought leadership there from different leaders in the industry. And really, Tourism IQ has become one of the very best places for you to develop professionally in the destination marketing space. It's got all the resources you need, and it's growing every day. We have over 530 active profile users. These are people that have created profiles on the site. And then we have another 2,800 active lookers who haven't created a profile, but they are there consuming the content and revisit the site on an ongoing basis. This site is growing every day. I'm so proud of what it's become, and I need everyone to go create a profile and see the incredible resources that are being posted for our industry on a daily basis. mytourismiq.com is the URL. Please go check it out. Fill out a profile on mytourismiq.com.
Danella, it's been great to have you share some of your experience with us. I want to, first of all, I want to make sure that everybody knows your show and where to get it. And then I'm going to ask you for a final takeaway. But let's make sure everybody understands where to watch your show.
Yes, so Traveling with Danella, easiest way, ask your remote to put on Traveling with Danella, and it's either going to pull it up locally. We're in 50 different cities every week, ABC, CBS, NBC. You can also check your program guide. And if you want to watch us streaming, then you can on Tubi, as well as Apple TV Plus or Go Traveler. If you have families in the military, we're on the American Forces Network in 168 countries. And believe it or not, every now and then when you're flying on the airlines, you can also see Traveling with Danella there too. But follow me on Instagram, Traveling with Danella, and that's the easiest way to stay posted on where we're filming, what we're doing, and the week's upcoming shows.
Perfect. Now, Danella, you go to destinations all over the country, all over the world. and you've seen a lot of good practices. You've seen a lot of bad practices. What's your most important piece of advice that you could give a destination organization that's listening of how to connect best with the traveler?
Really embracing your local community and understanding who the people in your community, who they are. Adam, one of the things when we started this show, and I'd go places and we'd have our filming schedule, and we always work in conjunction with the destination, with the DMO, with the CDB, and we get back our filming itinerary of the places we're going. There were no people of color. There were no people of indigenous descent. And when I would say, hey, do you have any people of color, any people of indigenous descent in the community? And most of the time they would say, well, I'm sure we do, but they're not members. Reach out, connect, make sure it is important to you and your team that you're connecting and knowing the diversity of your community, knowing their businesses, knowing their stories, and helping bring that to life as a part of your destination. One of the destinations that has done that so well is Los Angeles. We recently filmed in LA, right? And it was important for LA that people understand LA is not just about Hollywood glitz and glamour. When I tell you LA showed us all the different neighborhoods. So whether it was being down in, south of LA and being in places like Compton or in the Crenshaw area, right? Having a chance to see different aspects there, and then going outside of LA and even into some of the places like into the mountains where we had a chance to even connect with some of the wolves, or even going out to the Korean Belle. My point with telling you about LA is a very diverse community. And what LA tourism team and what they're doing, and in making sure that all these different cultures and businesses are spotlighted. So when you come to LA, to visit all these different places, support those small businesses, support the people, and get to know their story.
I love it. Love it. Great advice. Danella, this has been fantastic. I know you plugged your show, but give us your Instagram handle one more time.
Sure. It's Traveling with Danella, and that's Denella, not Daniela. So Traveling with Danella.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Would love to have you back another time.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to leave us a rating or a review. It helps us continue to bring you amazing guests like Danella. Thanks everybody, and have a great week.